Okay. Before we get into the video, there is something very important I need to check first. I need to see if I have the gift. Alright? So we got a, just a normal bag of dice here. These are my D&D dice. I'm just gonna take a few out, you know, just random. Alright, that was a critical success, if you can believe it. Okay, just gonna put these dice right here for right now. Got a t-shirt here. I'm just gonna use that as a makeshift blindfold. I'm confident with this, guys. I think I could do it. I think I have the gift to see the things that are beyond human sight. Alright, I'm just gonna... Alright, do that. Okay, I cannot see anything right now. Okay, good. Alright, now... Okay, now the dice. Alright. Alright, oh, alright, okay. Alright, here we go. See with your third eye. Damn it. I don't have the gift. Now I have to pick up all my dice. This was very short-sighted. Okay, well, that was kind of a bummer, but what can you do? I'll tell you what you can do. You could do a video on observation HAKI, because that's what we're doing today, alright? Now, I made a video about HAKI, like, in general, but that was, like, a long time ago. That was actually, like, one of the very first One Piece videos I ever made on this channel. I did a general video on devil fruits, then I did a video on the One Piece treasure, and I did a video on HAKI. But, you know, a lot of stuff has happened in the old HAKI department since 2016, right? A lot of big news here. We got Katakuri's future sight HAKI that he displayed fighting against Luffy, and now Luffy's learning how to use that, you know, kind of being able to see a few minutes into the future. Then you have Wano's Armament HAKI. It's Ryuo, you know, flowing Sakura that Hyo showed Luffy, and now he's training in that. When it comes to Conquerors, we haven't gotten anything, like, brand new from that, like a brand new revelation of, like, you know, this is a completely different way to use Conquerors, but a lot more people are using Conquerors now. It seems very clear that that's going to be a major part of the story, and the way that Oda is doing this, like, in Totland, we learned about an advanced form of observation. Now in Wano, we're learning about an advanced form of armament. It stands to reason that in the next arc, we're probably going to learn a little bit more about Conquerors. And it seems not even Yonko have it, also their top commanders, like Katakuri. He had Conquerors. King probably does as well. I would say Queen, but we saw Queen do kind of some stuff. We haven't really seen anything from Queen that indicates he has Conquerors, but King probably does. I'd be fine with that, right? So yeah, I think it would just be about time to do a good 3-part dedicated series to HAKI. So let's start off with Kenbun Shoku HAKI, or Observation HAKI. Are you excited, Sanji? You should be, because that's your specialty of HAKI. Okay, so Observation, as the name implies, gives you observation of your surroundings. It was actually the very first kind of HAKI ever showcased in One Piece. It seemed to me like Oda was maybe trying this out like a trial thing with the mantra of the sky races. We saw Eneru, we saw his priest utilize it, Isa, who was a Shandorian, she used it, and they basically just used it in order to, like, sense other people around them, you know, so nobody can hide. Eneru used it in conjunction with his Goro Goro powers to basically work like radar and sonar to, like, hear people's conversations from, like, you know, miles away, or indicate their exact location so he could, like, nuke them with a lightning bolt from above. They used it to dodge attacks, you know, like, oh, you're gonna punch me with your right fist, ha-ha, and then you dodge. That was Satori, by the way. You're gonna attack me with your right fist, ha-ha, hoo, hee. You know, that's how they used it there. Now, at that point in the story, just in Skypiea, most people just figured it was something just, you know, delegated to the sky races. You know, we're in a different world, you know, a different area, different, you know, races of people are up here, you know, people with wings and all that stuff. They just happen to have this unique power that allows them to, you know, have a sixth sense, to see into the future just a little bit, to predict attacks, right? Maybe Oda wasn't 100% sure he was maybe going to include it in the story. I mean, there's examples of HAKI before Skypiea, like with Shanks and the, you know, the Sea King and everything, but maybe Oda wasn't 100% on, like, everybody having it, or maybe he only wanted a few people to have it, and Skypiea was just kind of like the trial for that, the tutorial to see how he wanted to do it. HAKI didn't really start getting into high gear in the story, like, overtly until around Sabaody. Yeah, you had, like, that moment when Shanks walked aboard, you know, the Moby Dick, and he was using his haki to, like, cause the ship to kind of, you know, get crushed a little bit or splintered. But it wasn't until Sabaody that, like, Luffy started showing traits of conquerors, and it started to become a really big part of the story there. But as the way Rayleigh described it, yeah, you can use observation for a variety of different ways. You can observe people hiding in your immediate area. You can sense how many there are. You know, like, there are 3 wild animals in that forest over there. There's a human settlement over there. That's one way you could use it. You could use it to predict attacks. Now, that's something interesting about the predicting attacks thing, okay? Because the way that we saw it used by the Skypians and, you know, the Brickens and the Shandorians was basically like they were able to sense attacks coming, and they were able to just dodge them if the person, you know, throwing the attack intended the attack to hit them. Like, for example, with Eneru, he's like, you know, Luffy, you're gonna try to kick me with your left foot, and I could just dodge it, okay? Now, one way that Luffy was able to get around that was by, you know, using ricochets, okay? So he would, like, throw a punch at Eneru. Eneru would sense that attack coming, dodge that attack, his fist would hit a wall behind Eneru, and then it would ricochet and then hit Eneru, because he couldn't expect that attack coming. He didn't sense that with his mantra, he just sensed that initial attack, okay? So it seemed to be the case, at least during Skypiea, that if even the attacker doesn't know where the attack's going to land, then mantra doesn't work. Observation won't be able to predict the path, okay? Later on, when we see the Straw Hats utilize it, that doesn't seem to be the case, or at least seems to be a little bit different than the mantra to the way that, you know, the crew uses observation. Because remember during Fishman Island, when Horty Jones, you know, they were in the Ryugu Palace, Horty takes out that glob of water and he does those shark arrows. You know, Horty did not know where each individual, like, shark arrow water bullet was going to land. He just got a big blob of water and just like, all right, and then just like thousands of these water bullets just flung through the air like super fast, and they hit a lot of people. But with Zoro, it wasn't a big deal. Zoro just took out his sword and was just like, pew, 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 pew. Those were random attacks that I am sure Horty did not know were going to land exactly, and yet Zoro was able to block them all the same. In that instance, it really did seem like Zoro had like bullet time, like some Matrix shit, where it was like, so I'm not saying it as a contradiction, I'm saying it as just a slightly different kind of observation haki than what we really saw from Eneru. Because if that was the case, you think Eneru with his mantra, he'd be able to be like, okay, he's gonna throw a punch with his right fist. I will dodge that. Oh wait, it's also gonna ricochet off that wall, so I'm gonna enter bullet time here and just... You know, that's not what he did. It could just be that Eneru did not train in observation or mantra in that particular way. Because, you know, Eneru, on top of having mantra, he also had his, you know, Gora Gora no Mi. So he's probably not getting in a lot of, like, straight-up fights while being the god of Skypiea when you could just snap your fingers and just electrocute anybody in front of you. So it's not like he, like, Luffy was really the first serious fight Eneru really ever had. Okay, so maybe he just didn't train in that way. But the way that Zoro learned it and the other Straw Hats did, they learned it to kind of sense their surroundings in such a way that it kind of is like bullet time. Like, your opponent throws a punch or multiple punches or fires a bunch of shots from a gun or a bunch of arrows at you, and you can, like, slow time down enough to either dodge or block. That did seem to be the indication there. Now, we all know Katakuri has the ability to see into the future with his observation. At least, like, a few minutes into the future, like, maximum. Or, I guess maximum maybe, like, 30 seconds or so. He can see further into the future than other people can with just regular observation. Because, even with normal observation, it does seem to be the case that you could still see into the future. Might only be for a second, but you could still see in the future. Example of this would be during Amazon Lily, when Luffy was going up against Sandersonia and Marigold, and, you know, she's just sitting there like, a kick from the left foot. And then Luffy tries to kick her with his left foot, and then she just blocks it, okay? So it wasn't future sight on the level of, like, Katakuri, but for that one moment, she was able to see, like, a second or two into the future. She knew exactly what kind of attack was coming. Think of it like, Okay, you know how, like, in our world, if you're, like, a trained fighter, like, let's say you're a boxer. No, not that kind of boxer, although she is adorable. That's my doggy Duchess. This kind of, no, okay, not that kind of boxer either. That's, actually, I'm more of a brief guy myself, but, oh, that kind of boxer, right, okay, Rocky, let's go with that, okay, you're a boxer like Rocky, okay? If you're a boxer and you've been in dozens, hundreds of fights over the years, you're gonna gain just battle experience from that, and probably after a while, you'll be able to, like, anticipate your opponent's moves, like the way that they move or the kind of way that they're going to attack you. In One Piece, with observation haki, it's kind of just like a little bit more of a heightened example of that, where it's not just like, I have a pretty good hunch he's going to try to do like an uppercut. It's like, oh no, I know he's going to try to do an uppercut, and I should dodge or block, however I'm going to do this, right? So think of it like that. There are plenty of really good fighters in the One Piece world that don't have haki, that just because of their battle experience are able to just, be able to dodge and anticipate attacks. But observation takes it to the next level, where you actually know with absolute certainty what your opponent is going to do next. And I would imagine in the One Piece world, if you really are just a really good fighter, you would probably unlock observation at least at like the base level eventually. Look at Rebecca. Rebecca didn't have, she had a teacher, she had her father, Kiros and everything, but, she's just being a gladiator for a number of years. I think just after all of the fights that Rebecca was in, she would eventually just awaken a rudimentary level of observation to the point where she knew, okay, he's going to try to attack me with a sword, I'm going to dodge this way. Okay, she's coming at me with a spear, I'm going to do this. And that's how Rebecca was able to kind of get through all of those battles without getting a mark on her very revealing body, and she was able to get out through all of that, right? She did awaken observation. Anybody can awaken observation. It's not something only limited to a particular race or a particular, like, class of people or anything like that. Rayleigh said, everybody has the potential to use haki. Even animals can use haki. It's just, you have to have certain conditions and stuff to awaken it, okay? So I think that's like the base level of observation. If you're just really good at, reading maybe your opponents or like the surroundings around you, and it doesn't have to necessarily be in a like a combat setting. In Rebecca's case, it was a combat setting, being thrown into the gladiatorial arena every day and learning how to just dodge your opponents. I'm sure it started off as just being able to read her opponents really well, and eventually after a while, after a few fights of being in the Coliseum, Rebecca was seeing, like, attacks before they actually came at her. And she was just like, oh, I guess I don't even think she knew it was observation. I think it was just like, man, I'm getting really good at predicting attacks or whatever, But in other situations, like, for example, Lady Otohime, or Queen Otohime, I guess I should say, she's a queen, she's royal. She wasn't in battles all the time, but she still had a really good observation skill where she could kind of, like, empathize with others. She could, like, feel the same feelings they are, to the point where it's like, if they were really sad, she would be really sad, and that's why she was such a good queen, why her people loved her so much. She could, like, really empathize with their plights. All right, so that was more of like an emotional observation. All right, so it doesn't have to be battle. You could maybe just, like, if you're just living out in nature, if you're like a mountain man or a mountain woman or something, and you just spend all your days in nature and just, like, being really tuned to the wildlife and everything, you might be able to awaken observation to the point where it's like, there's a bunch of deer down there at the bottom of the hill that I'm sensing. Maybe something like that, right? Now, of course, the way that we see it be utilized, mostly in One Piece, is in battle, because it's a battle shown in manga, right? But yeah, there are other applications to it. In fact, out of all of the different variants of haki, Armament is pretty much something that is definitely geared toward battle. You basically coat your body with invisible armor to block attacks and attack people. Alright, so there might be other uses for armament outside of battle, but that really seems to be the main focus of armament, protecting yourself and, attacking others, With Conquerors, it really does seem right now that it's just like taking the aura of the person that has the Conqueror's haki and just exuding it on others, to the point where you can either knock people out that have, less powerful will than you do, or you can use it to, like, augment your own attacks, like when Don Chinjiao and Luffy clashed with their conquerors, or when Dofi and Luffy clashed with conquerors. That seems to be the focus of that, taking the Emperor's will and exuding it on the surroundings, whether it be a person or inanimate object. That seems to be the case there. Observation seems to be, like, a lot more applications for that. Being able to sense life forms around you, how many there are, being able to sense intent. That's another big thing with observation. Like, at the end of Fishman Island, when the crew was just kind of hanging out in the palace, and Caribou was skulking around, you know, I need to get me some mermaids. Yeah. You know, they were able just to be hanging out in the castle, and they were just like, Luffy's like, hey, you guys sense that? And Zoro and Sanji were like, yeah. Feels like some sort of, like, wild beast is, like, rampaging around the castle. And so they went to go check. So they were able to sense, like, Caribou's, like, negative intent there, or, like, his beastly primal nature, so to speak. That's another application of it. Otohime, being able to empathize with other people, being able to sense their emotions and, like, a link with them. That's another reason. Future sight, just in, like, in terms of battle, being able to see a second or so into the future. That's another one. And then the future sight that Katakuri was able to do, actually see a few seconds, or maybe even up to, like, a minute or so into the future. That's another application. Lot of ways you can utilize HAKI, observation HAKI. Way more ways than it seems like the other types, okay? And it makes sense, maybe that's the reason why Oda wanted to focus on that one first in Totland, like, have some new, you know, revelations with that, and Luffy mastering that ability to kind of see a little bit into the future first, as, like, a stepping stone to help him out in fights. Because with that kind of HAKI, now Luffy cannot see into the future as well as Katakuri can, because Katakuri had, like, decades to train with this. Luffy just understood the concept, like the basics of it. But, you know, even if Luffy goes up against an opponent that's even stronger than he is, he might actually be able to at least dodge the attacks, or, you know, evade them long enough to get away with that kind of ability. That's not really how Luffy fights. You know, in fact, I would like to think when Luffy clashed with Kaido, he was just going gear forth crazy against Kaido and just slamming attacks into him over and over again. I would like to think that if Luffy he was probably so focused on armament, he didn't even think about observation at that point. But if Luffy used observation at that point to sense Kaido, he probably would have realized, like, you need to run. You need to run right now. This guy is way too strong. You're not going to be able to beat him. You need to dodge him now, or you're going to get hit. I think in that particular instance, Luffy was he was so focused on gear forth and armament, just trying to slam into Kaido, just end him as quickly as possible. He didn't even consider using observation. Kind of the same thing that happened with Katakuri. Katakuri's observation is incredibly powerful, but if he gets too distracted or too focused on other stuff, or he gets jarred or something, you know, he's not going to be able to focus on it, and it kind of crumbles apart. So you really need to stay focused when utilizing, you know, observation. It seemed like way more focused was required for observation than it was for armament. Maybe that's because armament is more of like a physical body kind of characteristics, like you're hardening your own flesh or creating that vulcanization effect, or, you know, invisible armor, like that's something physical, like, you know. But with observation, that's all in your mind, and you really gotta have to open your third eye, or like your sixth sense in that case, and to utilize that power. And if you get all distracted, then it just falls apart immediately. Even if you're a master of it like Katakuri, it could fall apart still, so you gotta be careful with that. Now, how does one actually learn observation? Well, we saw that when Luffy was in training with Rayleigh, at least the first step of it, like learning it in like a traditional format. Like most people probably awaken observation when they're just in the middle of a really intense fight, like Rebecca or like Kobe. Oh, you know how Kobe awakened it? That was intense there. That's like Kobe was in the middle of a war zone, and like all the voices of all the injured and wounded Marines and pirates alike were like screaming in his mind like nails on a chalkboard. Like Kobe's walking around the battlefield and he's like in a haze, like all the voices were overwhelming him. And like, oh my god, it hurts so much. Oh, my leg, my family, I need to get back to my family. And it's like, oh my god, it's like splitting my head open, right? So that seemed to indicate, yeah, Kobe's specialty is definitely observation. Even though everybody in the world has the potential to awaken it, just like any skill, there's gonna be people that are, you know, more adept at it or just more prone to it just by being born, okay? So in Kobe's case, he just was born with aptitude for observation, so he awoke it there with just people screaming in his head, and later he passed out, and then, you know, they explained it to him later, and Garp probably taught him the basics of it. But when it comes to just, like, learning it in a normal setting, like, without having to be in a fight or anything, the way that Rayleigh did it with Luffy is that, you know, he puts a blindfold around Luffy's eyes, and then he takes a stick, and he's just like, okay, this is lesson 1. You're gonna learn how to dodge the stick, you know, without looking, okay? And also, I'm assuming without hearing or anything like that. Like, the point of observation is it's not one of your main senses. It's not smell or hearing or anything like that. It's literally using your mind's eye to predict attacks before they actually, you know, hit you, okay? So, that's step 1. And it took Luffy apparently a while to get that down because he was very easily distracted, okay? But just put on the blindfold and just, you know, whoosh, 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 and eventually you'll just be able to dodge all the attacks without an issue there. Now, there are limits to observation, okay? For one thing, just because you can maybe predict an attack coming doesn't mean you'll be able to stop it, or block it, or dodge it, alright? If it's a big enough attack, like if Whitebeard is standing in front of you, and he rears back, and just grrr, grrr, and it's like, wait a second, activate observation HAKI! He is going to punch me and reduce me to literal dust. Alright, I will do nothing to block that, because I can't... You know, it's like, what are you gonna do at that point? It's like, the range is too big, I can't dodge it, there's no way I can block it. It would basically just be a short preview into your own demise. It is like, boo, oh, I'm gonna die in 2 seconds. Well, at least I have the rest of my life. You know, so there's weaknesses there. Even with Katakuri's future sight ability, he wasn't able to stop things like the moment at the tea party and everything. Like, he's able to see into the future. Like, there's gonna be a bunch of Monkey D. Luffys that are gonna jump out of that cake in about 5 seconds. Whoosh. Yeah, shit, there's nothing I can do about that. A good example of this is during the tea party ceremony when Katakuri looks into the future, okay? You have Sanji and Pudding up there at the altar. The priest takes out a gun, you know, about to shoot Sanji. Katakuri was able to see Sanji's gonna dodge the bullet from that pistol. Okay, so since he's gonna dodge the pistol from the priest, I'm gonna take out my war jelly beans, because Katakuri uses jelly beans, and I'm gonna fire one so when he dodges the bullet, the jelly bean's gonna hit him. Alright, so Katakuri was able to see him dodging the bullet, but he wasn't able to see Sanji also dodging the jelly bean until it was too late. Alright, that just meant that Sanji also has really good observation, not on the level of Katakuri, but he had enough observation to tell, like, okay, I'm gonna dodge that bullet, but oh, there's gonna be another projectile coming from my 6 o'clock, and I'm gonna dodge that one as well. So, like, shoo, shoo. Okay, and so there are limits to this. It's not like, you know, what I see is necessarily the full picture. Alright, you know, it's just like, oh, I looked a little bit into the future, he's gonna dodge that one bullet, I'm gonna take out my jelly bean and fire- oh wait, no, he's also gonna dodge the jelly bean too, shit, you know. We also have Fujitora's HAKI, the way he utilizes it, okay, because Fujitora is blind, he basically relies on observation in order to see the rest of the world, and it's possible that because he blinded himself, his observation actually got heightened because he needs that, you know, he's like cutting off one of his senses to increase another one. So, we get to see the world through Fujitora's senses, and it seems to be like he's able to see people's auras or souls around him, okay? Like aura sensing abilities or some kind of thing like that, like being able to sense chakra or something from like Naruto. That's the way Fujitora sees the world, right? And, you know, that might just basically be like a regular stand-in for sight. He can't really see people's faces or anything, he can only see like the outline of their bodies and like what's directly in front of him, so he's not constantly bumping into people or anything. But it also might help him, like, what they're going to do, like, what their intent is. He could just see it a lot more clearly, because he doesn't have actual eyes to see. He has to look at their aura, and it's like, oh, their aura is getting very agitated, or maybe their aura changes color when they're getting, you know, ready to attack or something like that. Or when they're feeling sorrowful, there's another, you know, way that their aura appears to Fujitora. So he might not be, like, the same with Otohime being able to sense their emotions, but just because he's really tuned to all this kind of stuff, he might be able to sense, like, what emotions everybody's feeling in a general area, which, that doesn't sound like a great superpower. How would you feel like being able to walk into a crowded town square or something and immediately being able to sense, like, that person's sad, that person's angry, that person's jealous, that person's sad, that person's really depressed, that person's super happy, that person, you know, like, that would be kind of like an overwhelming ability there. Otohime definitely had that. Fujitora might have a level of that. But then again, I guess really not, because he wasn't able to determine, like, what was being cheated at that dice game or the roulette game at Dressrosa. He wasn't really able to sense, like, their deceit or anything like that. So I guess it might not operate in that way. But he does seem like to be the kind of guy that's really good at, like, picking up on people's emotions and stuff. So, I don't know. Maybe he chose not to use observation in that one point because that would be unfair. Because I guess, in theory, Fujitora could have used his observation to sense, like, the roulette board and stuff, but he didn't. So maybe he's like, well, I'm going to be fair. I'm not going to use my powers to sense, you know, what number they're going to land on or whatever, you know, and then the people just lied to him. So, yeah. But the way he reacted was pretty, he's like, oh, how dare you lie to me, you know, I'm just gonna take care of these guys really quick, hold on. Alright, that's good, they're dead. Alright, moving on. So yeah, that's the different kind of observation he uses. There's a lot of people that have observation in the story. There's like 78, I think last time I counted, of how many people can utilize it. It seems like a lot of the characters that, like the CP9, that are going to be like reintroduced post-time skip, Oda just gives them the HAKI. You know, in the Vivara card it was stated like, yeah, all the CP9, they got observation and they got armament now, you know, just to kind of give them on an even keel with the rest of the characters. Because if like Zoro and Kaku, if they had a rematch right now, and, you know, obviously Zoro has armament and observation, you know, if Kaku was the same as he was back during Eni's lobby, Zoro would just destroy him, right, with armament, HAKI, and observation, you know? So it's just like, yeah, well, it's been 2 years, yeah, the CP9, Kaku knows observation and armament now, so they're on, like, an even keel, right? It seems like he's doing that a lot, you know, with the characters that are coming back, but that's fine. It would make sense that they would learn it, you know, if the Straw Hats can learn it to that such a degree over the course of 2 years, you know, why not other characters, too? And then we have Usopp that unlocked that ability during Dressrosa, and so I'm sure he's probably, you know, fine-tuned it a little bit since then. It's been a while since he unlocked that power. Maybe Kinemon or some other people in Wano told him, oh yeah, that power you displayed, that's definitely observation. And so Usopp's like, oh, you mean I have a superpower? That's awesome! And so I'm sure if Usopp works with his observation would, of course, be finely tuned to his sniping ability, you know, being able to see targets, like, maybe even kilometers away at some point. Well, he kind of has already done that, because I think from the sunflower field to the castle where they were firing it off, I think that was over at least a kilometer or two. So he's definitely able to sense the distance, like maybe the exact distance, like 2.3 kilometers, you know, this tall, you know, this, you know, wind resistance is this, blah, 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 and have, like, the perfect shot in every single scenario. Probably the same deal with Van Auger, who is the sniper on the Blackbeard crew. Probably that same kind of HAKI. So it really, I guess, does come down to the kind of battle that you're usually in. You know, things that would help you, like with Usopp sniping. Things that would help, you know, Zoro with, like, where to cut exactly. You know, in Eneru's case, he probably wasn't in a lot of fights, so he didn't really have to worry about attacks coming from different directions. Also, he's a Logia, so he probably figured, like, if an attack comes from a direction that I'm not directly sensing, then I can just become electricity and have it pass through me, okay? So he was only really worried about intended attacks that were meant to hit him, and that's all his mantra was really good at. But yeah, anyway, that's observation HAKI. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. And then moving on, next is going to be Armament, and then we'll do a video on Conquerors. I was kind of debating whether I should hold off on Conquerors because, you know, maybe some new stuff might happen later in the story, but I figure, like, if stuff does happen with Conquerors, like brand new information about it, it's probably not going to be until after Wano, and that's probably going to be a while from now. So I'll just do the 3 videos now, and then, you know, if something brand new happens with, you know, Conquerors later, I could do a video about that too. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and please check to see if you do have it. You have the gift. I'm going to try to roll a, hold on, do I have a D20 in here? Did I throw all my D20s on the ground? Really? Oh no, there's a D20. Okay, hold on a second. I'm sensing... What are you feeling, guys? I'm feeling 9, but I'm also feeling 15. I'm going to go with 9. I'm going to go with 9. Critical fail. Damn it. 2. Damn it. All right. Later, everybody. Signing out.